Good afternoon, everybody. This is Joy Lingerie, and you're tuned in to Matured Musicians. I have with us today Bear Davis. Hi, Bear. Thank you for showing up today. And he's going to give us his background and what he's been up to in the music world shortly. I'd like to give a shout out to my sponsor, Luscious Moss Studio, owned and operated by Chad Christ in Edgewood, Washington. He began a collaborative and creative environment some time back when he moved here to this area. And he originally was set up for drummers and guitarists, but now he's beginning to produce music, and he's got quite a few people that he's produced music for, including me. So if you have any needs, you can reach him on Facebook under Luscious Moss Studio, or you can find him under Chad Chris. So if you, like I said, if you have any needs, you have very collaborative and creative environment for you set up. So with that being said, hi Vera, I'm probably going to move this computer just a little here. And I want to know what your background is. We often don't get a chance to tell our fans when they come to our gigs who we are and where we're from. So when did you start? What was the first instrument you learned and used?
So the first instrument I learned was the drums. And that was back when I was in grade school. I just thought it would be fun. I saw my parents used to watch Saturday Night Live, and anytime they'd cut to the drummer, or maybe on the Johnny Carson show, they'd show the drummer. And I thought that was fascinating. So I got there was a kid show called Fraggle Rock, and they got me a Fraggle Rock drum set.
Cool. No. I don't know much about drums, but I sure know a lot about drummers. So at any rate, we do have a live video here. So I don't know if you could see it on your computer or phone or whatever you're using, but there is a place where people can talk to us and ask us questions. So I'll be keeping my eyes open for that. And if I interrupt you, I'm not being rude. I'm just trying to get them answered.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
All right. So you start out with, I bet your parents love that.
Yeah, it was loud and obnoxious, and I didn't know what I was doing, but our neighbor was a very good drummer and took me under his wing and showed me a lot of different beats and how to count time signatures. And I did that for a couple of years, and then I didn't really touch another musical instrument until high school.
Yeah. I have a theory about drummers. The best guitarists, I think, I've found, maybe I'm wrong, I don't have the time or money for, very huge scientific research to prove it, but it seems to me the best guitarists always, whether they're, rhythm or lead or a bass player, usually come from a good, solid drumming background for whatever reason.
Well, I would not argue that point. You have a there's a lot of evidence to back up that feeling. And, when you're drumming, you really have to gain at least limb independency,
Yeah.
And when you're playing the guitar, especially the way that I do it, I like playing fingerstyle. You got to have independence. You got to be able to play different things at the same time on one hand.
Yes.
So, playing the drums definitely helps that for sure.
Yeah, I think I fall short there. I've tried, but I play rhythm guitar. I'm not very advanced, but I keep plugging along, taking lessons, etc. And yeah, that's the one thing I haven't been able to learn. And I think it's because I have had in the past, and I've been working on it ever since, issues with timing. Yeah. And I hate metronomes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I advise people that I work with, instead of practicing to a metronome, I just have them go to YouTube and type in the BPM of the drum beat they want, in the style they want.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then just play along to the drum beat.
Yeah. I've done it, but I never really gave it any conscious thought.
It's easier for me to play to a drum beat than it is a metronome.
Right.
Yeah, because I'm anticipating the fills and I'm anticipating, things like that. And
Yeah.
the metronome is just ding, 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 ding,
Exactly. But
Yeah.
that's how um, the, Chad Christus, the producer for my music, he sends me a MP to practice with, and it has that on it, so I know
Mhm.
exactly what the beats are. And then later he sends chord charts, so if I want to give it to a lead, they have everything there that they need, and it shows all the beats, and they can just play along to the recording.
Sure.
But oh God, I hate that beat. I mean, I love the beat. Don't get me wrong. I just don't like the metronome. That is the most aggravating. But that's a good alternative, and I'll definitely glad we put that out there. So when you how old were you before you started going other places, and did you do anything with your drums as far as a band or school band or anything during those years?
Neighborhood band
Uh,
when I was a drummer, but it wasn't anything serious. We never actually played any shows. We just mostly annoyed our parents. Um,
yeah.
and yeah, we lived over by the Everett Mall, like just a few blocks away from the Everett Mall, on a really busy street. It wasn't the greatest neighborhood, and yeah, someone tried to break into the house when I was 9 or so, and for some reason I found it therapeutic to destroy my drum set. And I did it with a butter knife. I
Oh,
just thought,
no.
I was like, oh well, this is what I would do to that guy if he broke in to get me. I'd go like this with the butter knife. Anyway, I killed my drum set. Never, and that was that. That was the end of my drumming career.
Oh,
And
no.
but it made sense when I was 9.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I didn't touch another instrument until I was just becoming a freshman in high school, and my brother had shown me how to play a song on the guitar, and I learned how to do it uh, fast enough that it kind of freaked him out. And then he showed me another song, and he told me, he's like, you need to play the guitar, and he was pretty good, but he wasn't learning songs, the first and second time he was shown how to play them.
So, approximately old were you at the time when you started playing the songs with your brother?
Yeah, I was a freshman in high school, so I was 14.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the first song he showed me was "Crazy Train" by Ozzy Osbourne or Black Sabbath. Yeah. And then he was really into the hard rock stuff, and then he showed me an AC/DC song, and I wanted to learn how to play Eric Clapton. That was my
Yeah.
I liked the rock stuff. I really liked Metallica at the time. They were really popular. So I liked Eric Clapton on one hand, I liked Metallica on the other hand. So pretty big contrast there.
Yeah.
But he didn't know how to play either, so I had to go off on my own.
So where did you go from there?
So from there, I took lessons for about 3 months, and my guitar teacher showed me a bunch of math that I still remember. I still remember all the math they showed me, but I was bored to tears. I was absolutely bored to tears. And, I told him that. I said, I really want to learn how to play the guitar. And then he told me, he's like, well, this is how you learn how to play the guitar. You have to do this math. And I thought to myself, there's got to be a better way. Because I feel like I'm just doing equations, and when I would rather just learn how to play the guitar. So I quit taking lessons, and then I started just playing by ear and making my own music theory that I've evolved over the past 30 something years that I've been playing.
No, I guess I'm confused. Maybe I wasn't listening. My mind has something people say, but you were taking lessons on the drums, correct? Or on the
No, I was taking guitar lessons. So I took guitar
okay.
lessons for 3 months when I was 14, and then I quit because there was too much math.
Yeah.
And then I ended up making my own. I ended up making my own guitar program that I've occasionally shared with people over the years, and then I started teaching professionally probably 10 years ago.
Uh,
So yeah, and I have my own program. I sneak the math in to where people don't even know they're doing the math, and they're just having fun. And
yeah.
that's what I wished my teacher would have done when I started.
Yeah. Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think they missed the point there. But things have come along since the internet and especially YouTube, where you can go in and they'll show you riffs and
Mhm.
different things that you can play for the song that you're working on. So it's come a long way, but the math is always there underneath. I start on piano, so I have an idea about how that.
Sure.
But I think if somebody told me it was math and tried to teach it as math, I'd probably freak out.
Well, the nice thing about the math is it does help you understand the instrument better. But people who it's easy for a professional musician to look at someone who's relying completely on math and listen to them make a melody versus someone who's relying on their ear
Ah,
and have them make a melody. There's usually a radical difference there. And the people that I am friends with in the industry, that those of us that are making melodies and selling them and licensing them, we're not thinking about the math at all. Does it sound good? The end. If it doesn't, okay, go back in the studio, keep going. That's it.
yeah, I hear you. I have to struggle with all of that, but I think it's just a learning process. The more you do something, the more it becomes automatic, like
Yeah.
breathing or blinking or whatever, and it's that muscle memory that helps too, as well as good ear. 100% right there.
Oh yes,
So,
yeah. The
so
muscle memory is a huge deal.
how exactly do you use this math? I mean, paint me a picture. I don't quite understand.
Yeah. So the way that I teach it in shapes, which I found to be the fastest, most effective way. For instance, if someone doesn't know how to improvise, um, in one lesson they'll be improvising, and they'll be able to move across the entire fretboard
Wow.
in one lesson.
Oh,
And on a typical guitar lesson, they're going to want you to play the pentatonic scale, and
yeah.
here's the different shapes of it, and show you all the modes all the way. And that's a lot to memorize. And that's what you know, I learned all that stuff when I was young, but as I got older and I started teaching people that were starting to play when they were 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, well, memorizing all that stuff, that's just, you know, not only is it not fun for some people, it's not really feasible
Right.
to do that and be able to recall it quickly. But if I show them one tiny little shape that they can move all across the fretboard, and doesn't matter what key we're in, we just move where we start the shape. Well, they can remember that,
Yeah, I
and
get it.
now they can improvise.
Right.
Now that's kind of phase
Are
one.
those are you talking about movable chords? Or is
Well,
it
so
something more sophisticated than that?
yeah, so that would the part of it. The other part of it would be getting into the cage system.
Yeah.
You may have heard of the cage system.
Yes, I had a man, I don't know if you know him, his name is Dave Nichols, but he's pretty big in the South, but I had him
Mhm.
in my band as a lead. And uh, after I drifted away, I was playing for many years. And then I got back and I asked him to show me the fretboard. And he started out with the cage system. And
Mhm.
then, doggone it, he left to go to the big band in the sky. And there I was holding the
Ah,
peg.
gotcha. Well, the cage system is something that a lot of people will hear about. They'll go on YouTube, they'll
Yeah.
watch a video on the cage
Yeah.
system, and then they'll watch another video, and then they'll watch another video, and they won't really have any better of an idea of how to use the cage system from before they watch the very first video. And I feel that that's because it's being explained wrong, or it's being way overcomplicated. And there's, as an example, let me grab this guitar here. Take this capo off.
What is that?
It's a Les Paul.
Ah.
Yeah, one of my favorite guitars in this room here. But let's say you're playing a D chord, which has this shape, right? If I were to move that up 2 frets, what chord does it become?
D, A, B, C, D, E, F.
Close. You're really close. It becomes E if we go up 2 frets.
Oh.
Now, if we wanted F, we'd go up 3 frets.
Go 1.
Right here.
Yeah. Half steps and whole steps. Got that part.
Yeah. So, if you have it memorized, though, and you know that we have, E, we have F, G, A, G, F, E, you just know where these are. Well, if someone's, say, playing a song that goes G, E minor, C, D. That's a popular chord progression, right? We've heard a lot of those. Now, if you know the cage system, you can play along and sound like a lead guitar player, not even playing a solo, just playing the chords in a higher frequency. So we've got a G right here, got an E minor here, right? And we've got a C right here, and then we've got a D right here. And if you play those at the same time that your rhythm player is playing down here, it's going to sound great. And that's kind of the entry-level way to use the cage system. But if you know it well, you can play along with anyone just by watching what they're doing.
Yeah. So do you do a lot of I have problems with, what are they called? Where you put your fingers like the B minor, for instance.
Yep.
Yeah, that top finger you got there. Mine doesn't work. Bar chords.
Yeah. So what the B minor is? This is actually this is what I would
A
call
minor's down too.
A minor shape. Yeah. So you take the A minor and then move it right here. Yeah. So are you talking about getting your pointer finger to bar all the strings? Is that the?
Yeah. I actually, I don't really push it that much when I do B minor. I just learned how to do this. One of the guys to play with and showed me how, and I kind of leave it lightly over the strings so they're more muted, but the B minor is there, and I believe whatever string you had your finger on at the top, is where my finger is lying when I'm doing that. But my fingers are small, and I don't have the stretch, so that if I'm not careful when I play that chord, my second finger on the B string, it gets out of place. So when I move them, it's really a challenge for me. And I've been doing this every day for a month for about 5 minutes, just to try to get used to using it that way. And it's kind of tricky. I don't have a shortcut for that.
Well, there's a couple of shortcuts I could give you.
All right.
One, you could just play only the A minor shaped strings that you're fretting.
Right.
So you could just play that one. The other thing that you could do is you could play the E, B, and G string. And
I've done that too. That's what I
yeah. The other thing you can do is you can just play the root and the 5, which is the power chord. Just those 2 notes.
See, now that I never learned what power chords are. I've heard of them, but I've never really studied them. So
so it's your root note and your 5th note. Yeah, it looks like that.
Yeah.
Now, if you play those 2 notes, you can play entire songs.
Wow.
It doesn't matter if the chord needs to be major or minor, since you're not playing the 3rd. It doesn't matter. The power chord will work perfectly over any chord. So there you go. There you go.
Yeah. So obviously you teach music.
Yeah.
And you teach a cage system, which is marvelous. I think
Yeah, cage system, improvisation, finger style is that's really my
right.
specialty. Yeah. Um,
So picking up the story about starting to play the guitar, taking lessons, and then
mhm,
developing your own style.
yeah.
What was your first gig? Paying gig? When was it in a band, solo act, or how did it happen?
Yeah, first paying gigs. Let's see here. I was 16, so I had a whopping 2 years under my belt, and I was in a youth group band,
Ah,
and we called ourselves Useless Youth, and and it was like it was a '90s grunge rock, you know, original stuff, and then we did covers of Pearl Jam and Smashing Pumpkins, and Nirvana. So, and when I say paid gigs, I'm talking, we'd be splitting $100 between the four of us. So, wasn't we weren't
that's some
going
great
in?
money, but
Yeah,
these days that's about all some people get. Some places are actually paying that little. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So if I understand, then did you move into more band playing, or did you start moving into teaching and recording? And I mean, where did you make the transition? Somewhere there's a transition here from.
Yeah, so I was in that band all through high school, and then after that, our lead singer got married and started a family, and I just kind of went off on my own and just really focused on songwriting, uh, and won some songwriting contests. I was on the Bob River Show quite a few times, and I caught the attention of uh, got the attention of Nikki Sixx, and so his bass player had heard one of the songs that I wrote, and so there was an email exchange, and like a young egotistical, 19, 20-year-old, I was somewhere around that age, when Nikki gave the feedback of what he thought could be changed or improved on the songs, I decided that the songs were perfect and they didn't need help. And then that was the end of my relationship with Nikki Sixx. And you know, of course, going back, knowing what I know now, I would have just done whatever he asked, and you know, but yeah, I was never in a lot of bands or anything. I actually don't really enjoy doing gigs.
Huh.
I don't.
Well, there's a lot of hard work in doing gigs for
Yeah,
very little money.
in the past in the past 15 years, I've done two gigs. Um, and the poster for one of them is behind me up there. Yeah, and it's not that it's not that people don't want to see me perform. They do. Like, that one sold out. It was the fastest selling concert in the history of the Thumbnail Theater. It sold out so fast that people, they were, if 30, 40 people over the capacity of the theater were still trying to get tickets, which is great, which is awesome. But even doing that for $30 and selling, well over 100 tickets, it's still, you're right, it is a ton of work for that. And okay, so you make a few $1,000, but when you look at the time that you spent to make that few $1,000 for that gig, it's it's not great. It's not great.
No, it
And
isn't.
and I don't have a passion for gigging. What I do have a passion for is uh, things like open mics. I love
Yeah,
open mics because I can go and do like 2 songs, 3 songs.
yeah.
I'm not. I don't have to be up there for 2 hours, and I get to go home. I can just bring a guitar with me. It's wonderful.
I want
Wonderful.
to tell you something about that. For I quit music in 2015. I had a band from 2000 2015. Then I got cancer, and I after all the things that I went through, it just sapped my energy and my health. So I ended up staying out of music for about 4 years. In 2019, I went back, and I had to start all over. It was like they rearranged my brain or something. And so I started going to these open mics and gigging with people. And one of the ones that I went to was one that, I don't know if you heard the name, but Lynn Sorensen. He's a bass player. He had several years, 12 years, I think, with Bad Company, and toured in
Mhm.
Europe and all that. And he's, kind of local legend. And he was with Doug McGrew, a drummer, who did this gig at Duval. And I'd go to others too, but that was the major one for me because it's close to home. And they just started a new one that I'd like to invite you to in Carnation at Poorhouse Pete's. And a lot of rockers come in there. But right now they have, I'd have to say, they actually have more people who are doing instrumental things.
Mhm.
That there's Wes Martin. I don't know if you know him either. He's from Snohomish area, and he's really wild on the guitar. He's very creative, and things like that. It's an interesting little jam. If you ever come out that way, do stop by. It's at Carnation every Sunday. I think they're going to change the time to 6 to 10, but right now it's 7 to 11.
And what day of the week is that?
Sunday.
Sunday. Okay.
Yeah,
All right. I
yeah,
will. I'll take a look. Yeah, I love open mics. It's always
yeah.
fun.
Oh, they are. No
Yeah.
work, just fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
I've got lots of friends that gig every weekend, sometimes multiple times during the week, and I watch them go and drive over all the way out here and there, and they end up coming home with $100. And
Yeah.
when I talk to them, it's obviously it can't be for the money, because at the end of the day, they're making way less than minimum wage when it comes to the practicing and the prep and all that stuff. So it's the performance. So I tell them, hey, you know, just go play open mic, and and you can get the performance bug out, and then it's way
Absolutely.
less work.
I do accept a few gigs every now and then, not very often, but I do.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's not. I pay my people for a couple hours of work, 2 to 3 hours of work. I pay everybody $200 a piece, so I have to subsidize whatever they're giving. Most of the time, is
Hmm.
some of it's free and is for worthwhile causes, whatever.
Sure.
And because nothing's changed in 2000 as far as wages, and
Yeah.
not much has changed, to speak. And it's like,
Yeah.
why? I know, why do you even do this? And I know why they do it, but it just seems futile. It just seems like these clubs, if why are you having music there if you can't pay for it? And then the other alternative is charge. You charge a cover. That doesn't work very well either. So
Yeah. Yeah.
gone downhill. They gone downhill big time.
Yeah. As far as making money in the music business, the last thing I would recommend for an independent artist would be to go and gig all over the place. That'd be the last thing I would tell them to spend their time on.
Right.
Yeah.
I get you. And yeah, never stopping this. Some people are addicted to it. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. And they have fun. And
Yeah.
my dad loved landscaping his yard. I hated it. And
Right.
he lived in his yard, and I lived in my room playing guitar. So
Yeah, there
yeah,
you go. Can't get and no harm done.
no harm done. No, no.
So one of the so mostly you're doing recordings, teaching, um,
Mhm.
and I understand that you also produce and not only just produce for people that are out there, but happen to see one of his videos. A friend of mine, Joni, her name is Joni, started playing, and she had a great song out there called Popsicle, which you produced. Loves
Yeah.
the song. And that's something you do. You help with the writing the music if they need it, writing the words, whatever. And I wonder if you could give us a little bit more information about that, and then I want to hear you play.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So I'll help people write, produce, arrange, record songs. I mean, the main thing that I do, the thing that keeps my lights on, is doing that kind of stuff. And it could be anything from an independent artist who maybe has a few words or maybe has a few chords who wants to make a song, or it could be a band who signed with a label that needs help fleshing some stuff out, or they need some guitar work, or and then everything in between. But yeah, that's one of the things that has come natural to me, and I've had success in it too. That's another thing. There's a lot of people out there that will say, "Hey, I'll help you write a song, or I'll help you do this," and I suppose that anyone can do that. I don't want to sound disparaging. However, however, you know, if you were to go start a restaurant, you would probably want a chef who has had success cooking at another restaurant before. That might that might be a better choice than a chef who has never done that.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, and music, as I said earlier, yeah, I did learn the math, when I was younger, but um, it's all about the ears. When I'm writing a melody, as I said, I'm not thinking about um, any of the math or on what notes I'm playing. I'm not thinking about that at all. I'm thinking about the project. You know, I did a couple of commercial spots for Costco not that long ago, and I was helping them sell a guitar made by Cort. And so I wrote a song for the commercial, and I wanted it to sound happy and hopeful and upbeat, and because it was, a lot of people were going to see it, and I didn't want to, and I also wanted it to sound, I didn't want it to be complicated. That's a big mistake a lot of guitar players will make. They'll say, well, I want to play something that no one's ever heard before.
Yeah.
Okay, well, have fun making tens of dollars a year as you make things that no one's ever heard before. That's fine. But yeah, so yeah, it could be anything from a commercial jingle to independent artist to a band, whatever the situation calls for.
What's the name of your studio? Bear.
It's called thebeardenstudios.com.
Yeah, Bear
Yeah.
Den. And they can find you on Facebook.
Well, they can find me on Facebook just by searching Bear Davis.
Okay.
But yeah, thebeardenstudios.com, and I think there's a link on my Facebook
Okay.
that goes to both places. Yeah.
All
But
right.
yeah, I sell songs, I license them, I do a lot of ghostwriting for people, because there's a lot of people out there with egos that don't want anyone to know that they have help. So so there is a lot of ghostwriting that goes on.
Now I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. And now with this AI business, they can actually do this. It's like, what the heck?
Yeah, I have dove into so I started playing with AI years and years ago, way before it became popular, and I saw the writing on the wall. Really, during the COVID shutdown, that's one of the things I was taking a close look at, and so I used one AI to write some words, and then I used another AI to come up with a chord progression, and then a melody. And then I had my friend over in the UK sing it, and I had another AI make all the backing tracks. And then I sold it for a couple $1,000.
Wow.
And I had, I don't know, maybe 2 hours into it. So it was very, very efficient. Very efficient.
I know a lot of people are afraid of AI, but I've seen some of the effects. Like, there's a fellow that does that just, I put out about 5 videos. I never could afford him until he came along. And some of it's AI, but it's just amazing the stuff you can do today. And most of it had some AI in it. I mean, and even when I produce my music through Chad Studio, it's the same thing. He uses programs to make the workload that he has of putting his song in all the right places. Like if you miss a beat, you can move it back a little, and you know how that works, your producer.
Oh,
and it's really handy on the program, but it's not standalone. I mean, it's part of something. And so while people are backing away from it, I think it's a good thing if used properly.
Yeah, one of the things that I realized early on, especially when the photo AIs first came out, is I was friends with someone on Facebook who did sci-fi covers on books, and they looked at that stuff and went, "Wow, I'm glad I'm retirement age." And I was originally going to be a graphic designer. That was my. So I actually used to draw and paint way more than I played guitar when I was younger.
Yeah.
And my parents said, "Well, you're not going to go to art school. That's silly. We're not paying for that." So I said, "Okay, well, fine. Then I want to go to music school." And they said, "That's worse than your first idea." And I said, "Okay, well, then I want to go to film school." And they said, "That's the worst of all three." And so I asked them what they would pay for, and they said, "Go do something with computers." So I went and got a bunch of
all of it
certifications, and ended up working at a tech company, and I was miserable. And went and saved up my money and bought mics and computers, and I just taught myself how to do stuff. And then I quit my job, and that's it.
Before we get too far, I do want to put you on. I'm going to disappear on you. Don't get excited here, but I'm going to. Okay, that's what happens when I just go into the studio and put you on the full screen.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to have you play, and yeah, and I'm going to disappear. You're not going to be able to hear me, so it'll all be you until
let's make sure that they can hear my guitar. Let's see here. I was practicing some stuff earlier. Can you hear that?
Yeah, not as loud as I like, but
let me turn it up here.
Okay. Yeah, I could even louder. I'm deaf, so I have to hear some music.
Let me point the mic.
Okay.
Up there.
I'm gonna leave you now. You take it away.
Okay, I'll just probably play like for a couple of minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
Bravo. That was very pretty. I liked it. Yes, I could see what you're doing there. I liked it when you were bending those strings.
Yeah, the style is kind of a modern
Um,
finger style. Oh, can you hear me now?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
You can
that's
hear me
good.
now. Sounds like a commercial. We're good.
Okay, yeah, the style of guitar is like a modern finger style. I've combined the finger stylings of a whole bunch of my favorite guitar players and kind of made them into one conglomerate. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like yeah, Eric Clapton, Mark Knopfler, uh, Tommy Emmanuel, and Mike Dawes. Yeah, those are.
I don't know all of those, but I do love Eric Clapton.
Oh, Don Ross. He's the two-time fingerstyle guitar champion. I played a show with him last year.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that brings me to during the dark period of COVID, were you
Mhm.
still teaching? Were you still actively producing and doing the things that you're doing now?
Yeah. So, for probably, during that first 6 months, not really. I was just going on a lot of walks
Yeah.
and, playing alone by myself. And I had one friend that he lived by himself, and him and I, we were the only thing that we would do is we would go on walks together because we knew that we weren't, uh, we couldn't have gotten COVID because we're just sitting here in our houses. So we'd meet up at a park and just
Right,
go and
right.
walk. Yeah. But after about that 6 month mark, so sometime in June or July, I teaching and writing for people again. Yeah.
Huh. I
And
would do,
there was an influx of students there too, of people that were
yeah,
just dying to play
yeah,
the guitar.
do anything during that time.
Hmm.
Do you ever
Oh
have
yeah.
any negative feelings about it? Like, is this ever going to be over? Or, I
Oh,
mean,
when that was going on, when you talking about
yeah,
the pandemic or?
yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, you know, I went and I got. I remember when the vaccine was first available to my friends and who were over 75,
Yeah.
uh, and that was in late November, early January of 2020. And I was like, man, I wish I was that old so I could go get the vaccine. So I felt like, I want to get. But yeah, I was done. I was done with sitting in the house and not being able to see anyone. I think a lot of people were.
Yeah, I started searching the internet for people that were beginning to play online, like you just did, and
Mhm.
they had different shows and so forth that they would play just to hear music again. I mean,
Sure.
it was really difficult to be in the house. You know, I'm older, so I was more at risk than some people are. And I just I couldn't stand it anymore. It was like I
Yeah.
gotta do something.
Oh
And
yeah.
I
Yeah.
met a lot of people, and that's how this whole thing started because I started songwriting.
Oh, cool.
So, and I've got some out on YouTube. If you look me up, Joy Lajeret, Lajeret, you can see my stuff. But anyway, for the last 15 minutes that we've got here, what have you got coming up? What would you like to promote, or what events, what things? How did Jody find you? I mean, I didn't know you. You just kind of slipped in there, and I'm like, oh, I don't know this guy. This is
uh,
great.
yeah. So I don't have any official advertising out there. It's just word of mouth, and
Oh,
that's going to change in 2025. I make commercials for other people and companies, but
wow.
I haven't made
Yeah.
one for myself. But I'm going to have a commercial, one for the studio, one for lessons, one for songwriting that I'll be getting out there. But yeah, I don't really have any events to promote, but something that I do offer people, regardless if they're currently taking lessons or if they're not, their first lesson is on me, free.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because you want to make sure that, whoever you're taking lessons from, that you have fun, you actually learn something. And if those two things are true, then you're likely going to come back.
All right.
If either of those are not true, then you're probably not going to come back. So yeah, and those are the two things that I try and focus on: are make sure the lesson is fun, and make sure that they became a better guitar player as a result of the lesson. Yeah. Um, and then if someone is taking lessons and they get a discount on the studio and the songwriting stuff, videography if they want it.
Yeah. We were
Yeah.
talking about that earlier. So, but this person you were telling me, I don't remember the name. Sorry about the finger. His has a certain fingering uh, style that's well recognized. And you said you were playing with
Oh,
him.
oh,
Was that at like for the public, or was that?
yeah. That's Don Ross. That was a show. Well, he was on tour uh, at the time, and I got to open for him. Yeah, he's he's one of the original modern fingerstyle guys. He mentored Andy McKee a lot. Not sure if you know who Andy McKee is.
No.
That's okay. That's all right. Yeah, he's an amazing guitar player. Um, and then Tommy Emmanuel, he's one of my favorites. I've stolen a lot of licks from Tommy. He told me I was a petty thief, and he was kidding. I mean,
Yeah,
we're
let's.
all we're all petty thieves. He had an arrangement of Day Tripper that I thought was just awesome, so I stole some parts of it. But yeah, uh, you know, we know what we know because of those who came before us,
Right.
and music is no different.
Yeah.
So
True.
yeah,
Yeah. And you have to sort out the good and the bad.
yeah, yeah.
Not always easy. So, what does it take, do you think, to make a good song and be a good songwriter?
So a couple of things. One, there has to be a human relatable connection uh, with the song in two forms. One, lyrically, if that's not relatable to the majority of the population, then you're kind of starting off on a bad foot. And then, it doesn't matter what genre you're playing in, the music itself has to be catchy. You know, of course, there's hooks in the vocal melody and the words. That is a given. Like if that's not catchy, then you're in trouble. But the music needs to be catchy too. And again, I think that most, especially guitar players, try to overcomplicate things. They really do, and they want to play stuff that's cool and complex and difficult. And, I have a bunch of things that I've scored that are really complex and look like, you know, um, crazy math equations. But when I play that stuff, I'm playing it for me. I'm not, when I go to sell a piece, that's not what I'm trying to sell, unless someone were to ask me for that. But
Right.
usually someone's asking me for something poppy, catchy, regardless of the genre. So um, there is I'm gonna say some woo-woo stuff here that that a lot of people will understand what I'm about to say, and other people will be like, oh, I'm not sure about that. But in the world of writing melodies, especially, if someone has a musical palette and they absolutely love a large variety of styles, that is going to give them a little bit more of an advantage, because they're going to be open to a lot more possibilities, because there's amazing melodies that are written in all styles. If someone if they say they like music, but they really like one style and maybe like a few artists in that style, that's going to limit them. It's going to make it more difficult for them to be a successful songwriter. When someone comes to me, I don't get to pick the genre. It might be, pop here, and then it might be a poppy jazz song, and then it might be an R&B song, it might be an EDM song, where it's all electronic, but if you can't put your producer hat on and hear what is catchy in that genre, then you're probably not going to be a producer for a living. You got to be able to do that. Yeah. If let's say if you're someone who hates hard rock, you don't like the distortion and all that stuff. Well, at the end of the day, to me, it's the same notes, and the same thing that sells a song in that genre is the same thing that sells the song in this genre. So, I get over and I do like hard rock. I'm not picking on hard rock, but yeah. And one of the things that I do when I'm writing, I actually use one of the same methods that I teach people. I have a 7-note shape that I move all across the guitar, and in that 7-note shape, no matter where I play it, is every note in a famous melody. So every single one. If I were to play, I'll turn this back. Can you hear this guitar again? Okay. So if we were to take, a famous song like the Titanic song by Celine Dion, I don't remember the name of it, but the song that Celine Dion sung about the Titanic in that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, but it went E, F, G, and went A minor. But the melody for that is all in that little shape that I do. So that's the shape, and that shape holds every single melody for every famous song ever written. So when I'm writing a melody for a part, I just use the shape I made, and I go, okay, here's the possibilities. Now let's make something original. Yeah.
Something about "We Will Go On" or something.
Yeah.
I love it.
My heart will go on. There it is.
Forever.
Yeah. Yep. And that's a song I show as an example all the time, because everyone's heard it, and a lot of money was made with that song, and yep, the melody's all right there. Yeah. Now, when a song changes keys, well, then you just move the shape.
Wow. Yeah.
Nothing overly complicated about that. Yeah, the other thing is if someone wants to get into songwriting and they want to, you know, start selling and licensing music, the first thing that they need to do is they need to license their music for free.
For
And they
what?
need
I'm sorry,
for
license
for free.
for free.
That's what they need to do. They got to go out and you got to go find projects, indie movies or local commercials, and say, hey, here's my song. Use it. Do whatever you want. I don't need to be paid nothing. Once you have some credits behind you, then start going out and asking for a nominal fee, something where people are like, oh yeah, well, I can definitely afford that. And then once you have a few of those paid credits, then start charging more and more, and then start going after bigger projects. But you have to climb the ladder that way. You can't just say, well, my song's amazing, and I need 250 grand for this Android commercial. Well,
Yeah.
you know,
Good luck.
that'd be great. That'd be great. But I'm actually working on an Android commercial proposal that's going to be going out later this year. And
Okay.
of course, they might say yes, they might say no, and you know when you do take a song and you try and package it up with a specific target, that's the highest risk, but it's also one of the highest rewards because you can put your song out on a bunch of different licensing platforms, and people might, they might license your song, but you're not going to get a huge payout from something like that, like Pond5. But if you go, say, after Android, like I'm doing, yeah, you're going to spend a lot of time preparing all this stuff, and if they like it, it's going to be a nice payday. And if they don't like it, you spend a lot of time on having, now you get to move on to something else. So it's a risk reward kind of business. There's a little gambling involved. Yeah.
True. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
So do you ever miss I mean, obviously you like performing, but you also know that it takes a lot of your time to do a gig. You've got all this set up already.
Oh yeah.
But do you ever miss not performing for live audiences, or do you do enough of it that you don't miss it?
I go busking in the summertime, and I'll go into Mill Creek Town Center, and I'll take 10 songs, and I'll just loop those 10 songs because usually no one sticks around for longer than a couple of songs anyway. So, yeah, I prefer stuff like that, or an open mic. I don't, I played a lot of shows. I was in a band in 2005 called Citizen Rain, and we had quite a bit of success. It was like a post grunge sound, kind of sounded like Nickelback,
Yeah.
And we had 5 songs on the radio, and we were selling out, the bigger clubs in Seattle, and I did not like it.
Yeah.
Did not like doing it at all. I was like, let me stay home in my studio. Let me record. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not super extroverted. And my friends that are super extroverted, they are in heaven when they're up on stage.
Yeah. It's interesting how music drives us one way or another. I mean, it's kind of like when you start, you end up someplace entirely different than where you thought you were going to be. I mean, at least that's for a lot of these people.
For sure. When I first started playing the guitar, if I knew that I would be doing this for a living, and I saw the collection I have now, I'd have been pretty excited. But that would have been bad too, because my younger self wouldn't have worked as hard.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So where do you go from here? What do you see yourself doing in the next few years? Or let's give it a 5-year plan. What do you think is going to happen in the next 5 years? What direction are you steering it?
Well, right now, I would say that I mean, I'm doing precisely what I love to do. Um, you know, I hope to do this until I can't. Really, I I don't even notice time go by when
Yeah.
I'm writing, teaching, recording, producing.
Yeah.
I can do that all day long. So I hope from now until the day that I can't do it, this is exactly what I'm doing. For me, I'm living the dream, I guess.
That's okay. Nothing better
Yeah.
than that. On your niche. Absolutely.
Yeah, you know, I wake up usually at the crack of noon, and
Yeah.
yeah, and I usually go to bed between 2:30 and
Yeah, it's
1
like
in
me.
the morning. You know, and I've always been that way. When I was in my senior year of high school, I made sure I had enough credits to where I didn't have a first, second, or third period. So I got to school during lunch,
Yep.
and I would go to school. I hang out. There were 3 lunches. I would go hang out with all my friends, and then I would go to periods 4, 5, 6, and then I go home. But I am the opposite of a morning person.
I know. I get it. I am too. Can you believe an hour has gone by? We are now at 101.
Oh wow!
It was great having you. I hope you come back and tell us your story a little later on sometime. Can you do
Yeah,
that?
had a great time. It was
Great.
nice meeting you.
You too, Bear. I wish you all the luck in the future. And I usually like to update 6 months to a year or so and find out what people have been doing since the last time we were together.
Okay, sounds great. Looking
All
forward to
right.
it.
I will send you that link for YouTube. And thank you so much for being on the show. You take care. And
right.
I'm glad you're at where you like to
Thank
be.
you.
And don't, if you want to go to an open mic, come on out. We'd love to have you.
Okay, I will try and make it down. I promise I'll get down there in 2025. But you know,
Perfect.
yeah.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, you too. Bye bye.
Bye.